Oh, hi there. Welcome once again to the show. Glad to have you aboard today. I'm going to start off by reading a text that I got this morning, a little text exchange that I was having with someone. And it relates to the NHL dress code, or more specifically, the lack of a dress code now and the reasons behind it. And yesterday when we went off the air, and by the way, thanks a lot for all the kind words about not just Anton Thun yesterday on the show. You guys seem to like hearing from him as he sort of broke down some of the things we know about the CBA, but also Mike McMahon on the Gavin McKenna situation and the future of the CHL/NCAA, I don't know, Vic, what do we call it? Situation between the two. This is the first year where everything is magnified and then blown up. Like everything is massive because kids are jumping, and what is this going to mean for the future? And sky is falling, and CHL is going to crumble, and everyone's just going to go to Division I hockey. And what is that going to mean for the USHL? Are they going to get steamrolled through all of this? And to everybody, I just keep saying the same thing. Let's all calm down. Let's all take a deep breath. Nothing is ending right now. Let's just chill out and see where this thing ends up. But Vic, one of the things that we talked about yesterday, and I want to go through the daily outline here in a couple of seconds before we get to this text with a friend of mine, an attorney who has a lot of knowledge about the NHL. One of the things we finished talking about with Anton about yesterday, former agent, M5 Sports and Cortex, was the idea that in the CBA, there's a lot of things that are disguised as player wins that are really NHL wins. Like the Olympics is the obvious one, right? Because I don't know if you're old enough to remember this. 1998, when the NHLers first went to Nagano at the Olympics, this was the push from the NHL. This is great for the league, right? And everybody understood it. And everybody still understands it now, owner to owner to owner. I know they get boo-boo face if one of their players gets injured. I know they get boo-boo face because they got to shut down for a couple of weeks. I understand all that. But they know that the long-term play, putting their brand next to the Olympics, can only benefit them. There's one other element here that, and even I bit, but it may end up being more of an owner win than a player win. If my friend, this certain attorney that I'm going to read you this text from, is correct, but it does make sense once I share it with you. But first, coming up on the program today, Daily Outline powered by FanDuel. Make every moment more with North America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. And coming up here on the program, you can read him. I mean, his El Monsters newsletter is outstanding. And if you're a New York Islanders fan, or you just have a curiosity about the Islanders, you're going to want to tune into. You can read him in the hockey news as well. Steph Rosner is going to stop by. We'll talk about dress codes. We'll talk plenty about the New York Islanders. I may try to get him in trouble by saying that Sorokin's going to get traded to the Edmonton Oilers. I don't know if you saw Dan Milstein's tweet about that today, the agent. Schaefer Daddy. Oh, I like that, Vic. Yeah, Matthew Schaefer, Schaefer Daddy in Long Island, trying to make the team. I will mention Ilya Sorokin. Yes, I'm glad you threw that up there. And I think that Vic wants me to say a thing or two about Matthew Schaefer, who signed like a deal that we all kind of expected him to sign with the Florida Panthers. I mean, that's like a deal that he should sign, and the Florida Panthers need him to fit into that slot. I don't know that that's necessarily a big story, other than I think that Matthew Schaefer is a really good player and is going to be a really good player, but it's not going to be one of the marquee guys on the Florida Panthers.
It's the only news of the day, Jeff. It's
no. We can manufacture. That's our job, is to manufacture news and to manufacture controversy, as they call it, across the pond. So with that, let me share something with you here. So a friend of mine, and I'm not going to tell you what her name is, but she's an attorney in the States, and she was listening to the interview that we did yesterday with Anton Thun. And she's very interested in all of this. And the team that is closest to her, she was always and has always been able to explain things from a legal point of view as to why things are happening. She's just a wonderful person, and we bonded when we first met over our mutual love and respect of the Quebec Nordiques. That's the only clue I'm going to give to who she is. She's an old Nordiques fan, transplanted to the United States. So here's what she says, and this kind of makes sense. And if there's anybody else in the audience, anyone listening, anyone watching, who has a legal background, who can tell me whether this is true or not, because in my little brain, and again, this little brain went to school to study English and philosophy at the University of Guelph. I never went to Osgoode Hall to study law. But work with me on this one. Okay. So she's texted me this morning. It says, the uniform stuff is also interesting, coming off the interview yesterday with Anton. The issue of uniforms might seem innocuous, but it possibly can have impacts on employer obligations. This is definitely an issue in the context of union negotiations with firefighters and police officers, because the timing of when they wear their uniform can impact employer obligations, in brackets, salary, workers' compensation, retirement calculations, free speech rights, immunity, etc. She also adds, that varies state by state. So here's where I wonder about the NHL saying, essentially, as long as it sort of fits the tastes of the day, you can wear whatever you want. And we're looking at this as if it is a win for the players. Oh, look, they get to wear, guys get to wear open collar shirts, and they can wear outrageous fashions, and that's all cool. That's all wonderful. What a win for the players. But I always wonder, I always had, lawyer friends always talk to me about the L word. You know what the L word is, Vic?
I'm going to guess lawsuits. That's my guess.
Liability. Liability. They
close.
They say
That's
everybody tries to protect when you raise the L word, liability. And I wonder if, there's some very creative attorneys out there, and bless all of them. You make our lives so much better. Lawyers make the world great. If it can be shown that the NHL has a dress code, does that then mean that the lawyer is liable for everything you do on your way to the rink if you are, quote unquote, wearing what I'm guessing you could make the argument is a uniform? And a uniform is not just your hockey pants or breezers for you people in Minnesota, and sweaters and socks and helmets. But if part of the uniform is you have to wear a suit, does that mean legally that you're on the job once you put on your suit and make your way to the rink? Therefore, the teams are liable for whatever happens to you, because technically it is happening while you are at work. Am I stretching this too much?
I don't think you are. And we had a brief convo before the show, and I told you, like, I used to work at a grocery store, and I'd put my uniform on and hop on the bus and go to work. And if I happened to get into an altercation while on said bus, while wearing said uniform, right, I'd probably lose my job. But if I wasn't, then nobody knows.
Private citizen, whatever. It's Vic.
Exactly.
He's doing Vic things on the bus again.
Exactly. Not that I'm a fighter or anything, but yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And the NHL has shown that they know how to play the legal game.
Of course.
And if they can get themselves out of any liability with regards to anything any player does, it
winks at the question: at what point of the day are you an employee? Like, at what point are you doing your job? And if the idea of putting on a suit is seen as a uniform because there is a dress code, does that then mean the minute you put on that suit to go to work, you're essentially at work? Yeah. And the teams are liable? Is that what this is?
Do you think?
I don't know.
But do you think? What is your opinion on that, Jeff? Do you think that if I put my suit on, I am a? You don't know. You're on the fence
no. You know what?
One?
I'll tell you what. This is one of the things where it's like your gut says one thing and your head says the other, and my head is like, okay, so if I can understand it from a legal point of view, that this would reveal that this person is at work because they're asked to wear the uniform, and the league is insisting that they have this and adhere to this very specific dress code. Therefore, in the eyes of the law, they are at work. But then my gut says, like, come on, you're on your way to work and you just happen to be wearing your uniform to work. Now, I know they don't dress up in their hockey pants. And again, breezers for all you in Minnesota, and sweaters and helmets and all that on their way to work. Like you're going to Timbits hockey with mom and dad Saturday morning, 7 a.m. I know it's different, but from a legal point of view, it kind of makes sense. Is that what this could be? So now all of a sudden the NHL is not liable for whatever happens to you on your way to the rink because nothing is being mandated. So your job at that point hasn't started yet. I don't know. Maybe there's something really obvious here that I'm missing. But when she texted me that this morning after the conversation with Anton, I thought, you know what? I should probably throw that out here on the program. If for no other reason, than to see if there's anybody else in the audience listening or watching who has an opinion on it and can tell me whether that is the motivation for this one. Anyhow, let's get to our guest today. I'm very looking forward to having this conversation. But before we get there, this segment is brought to you by Simply Spiked. Summer is here, hanging out in the great weather with great friends. You want that feeling to last forever, but you can also squeeze every drop out of summer with Simply Spiked. Simply Spiked has 3 delicious flavors. The OG Summer Classic Simply Spiked Lemonade, it's always a party favorite. Try a sweet and juicy summer sip with Simply Spiked Peach, or check out the newest flavor in the Simply Spiked lineup, Simply Spiked Limeade. It is sweet and it is tarts. Don't know which one you want to try? Well, why not try them all with the Simply Spiked Variety Pack? These juice beverages are 5% alcohol, contain real fruit juices, and are the perfect refreshing and convenient summer drink. Simply Spiked pairs perfectly with any summer occasion. That includes summer hangs, backyards, pool parties, barbecues. Simply Spiked launched in Canada in 2023 and has been bringing the juiciness ever since. Pick up Simply Spiked at your local liquor store or for your next summer hangout. You must be legal drinking age, and as always, we remind you to celebrate responsibly. Someone who celebrates responsibly on a consistent basis, and the team he covers right now has plenty to celebrate about. He is Steph Rosner of the Hockey News and the L Monsters newsletter, and he joins me now. Have they been able to keep enough champagne in the local liquor shops around the UBS these days after the Matthew Schaefer acquisition going first overall? First of all, Steph, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. And yes, they're running out of liquor left and right. The buzz around this team has been higher than ever from the get-go, from Darche taking over to the trades, to the draft, to what they did in the first round after Schaefer, to the free agents they signed, to opening up practices and development camp, to the scrimmage. Islander fans are on cloud 9 right now.
And I'm sure plenty of people have said the same thing to you since the CBA got announced. Lou Lamoriello gets fired and the dress code in the NHL is gone. How many times have people said that to you, Steph?
Not that many times, but if you put 2 and 2 together, right? I think for the Islanders, you talk to some of the players about shaving, right? Now that was a huge thing with the Islanders. They had to shave with Lou. Ask a lot of these guys, they say, well, we just can't grow beards anyway. But then you look at guys like Kyle Palmieri who grow a playoff beard overnight. So it's a different time on the island for sure right now.
I'll tell you what, like it was pretty jarring, and I never got over it. Like when you have like a buddy who has like a big beard and then finally shaves and looks like a different person. Kids get that feeling, when their fathers shave their beard that they've had for a long time. It's jarring. I never got used to seeing Kyle Palmieri without his beard. Like it always looked wrong. Like normally, like when you shave, it's like, okay, it takes you a day to get used to it. Never got used to it with Kyle Palmieri ever. You ever thought on that big issue?
It's about the team, Jeff. Yeah, listen, who knows? Maybe Palmieri scores 40 goals now that he's rocking a beard. We have no idea how this affects everybody.
Get it back. It's like Samson with the hair. Okay, a couple of things here. First of all, so Sorokin's going to the Oilers, right?
Right. 1,000%. That's what his agent just said. No, I knew you were going to try to get me in trouble with this one.
And I threw it out there just because Dan Milstein, who's the agent from Gold Star, put out a tweet today saying, essentially, and I'm paraphrasing it, I don't have it in front of me. There's never been any discussion about Ilya Sorokin and trades. People should be reporting facts, and I can't remember what else he added. Essentially, shooting down that there's been any discussion about Ilya Sorokin. But I would have to figure that, and Edmonton would be an obvious one, as they canvass the entire NHL. They'd probably have conversations, I'm not saying with the Islanders, but internally about Ilya Sorokin. Whether it extends outside of that office, I can't prove, but I think you have to do your diligence if you're a team like the Edmonton Oilers and say, I remember Kelly Rudy telling me once he talked to his GM, Rogie Vachon, said something along the lines of, how often do you talk about players on the team? And Rogie said, every day. And he said, well, how many times do you talk about me? He goes, I talk about you every day. Because everybody needs to know what's happening with everybody at all times, so managers have a good handle on what's going on. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, Steph. I'll turn the recreation over to you on Sorokin.
Yeah, I completely agree. If people were calling about Matthew Barzal or Bo Horvat, of course they were calling about Ilya Sorokin. We know the Oilers need a goalie. Utah, a team the Islanders are obviously trying to trade up with, they get James Higgins, could use another goalie. There are tons of teams that need an Ilya Sorokin. So, of course, teams should be inquiring. Then it's up to Darche to say, absolutely not, we're not doing that, like he did with Barzal and Horvat. He told them immediately that he wasn't trading them, and I would feel the same way with Sorokin, entering year 2 of an 8-year deal, full no trade.
Yeah.
But, yeah, if I'm the Edmonton Oilers, you have to make that phone call. Worst comes to worst, Darche says no.
Yeah. What do you make of Mathieu Darche so far? Like, I know it's still the honeymoon phase, and he's hit a lot of the right notes. He kind of had Matthew Schaefer fall into his lap. That's not of his doing at all, but talk about good fortune, stepping into the right situation. Like, what are your initial thoughts on Mathieu Darche? Because he's kind of been Steph, he's been a GM in waiting for a long time. Like, there comes a point in everyone's career that's up for the general manager positions. Like, after a certain while, it's like you don't want your nickname to become runner-up. But it was almost like Darche was in the running for all these positions. Like, there was some of us that were like, he's in it on all of the. Montreal was another obvious one. He's in it right to the end on so many of these. You don't want to get to the point where it becomes a cliche. It's like, oh yeah, Mathieu Darche is interviewing. He'll of course be the runner-up. But he's been great so far. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for him has been transparency. And I think for the Islanders under Lou, especially when they're going to the back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals, you could tolerate the rules and the secretness, all that kind of stuff, because there was success on the ice. But once that faltered, I think a lot of people got fed up with the secrets, not knowing if Barzal was going to come back, not knowing if Varlamov was going to come back. And these are things where paying customers want to know this information. I'm not here saying that every GM needs to just show their cards every round, but from the get-go, Darche has a plan. Not only does he have a plan, he told us all the plan, whether it's talking to the media, talking to the fans at the draft party. He's communicated with the fan base and has spread a message, and he's been following through on that message.
Yeah.
He said shorter term on players of free agency. He said he was going to help redevelop, Bridgeport, and he's done that. So everything that Darche said he wants to do, he's doing, and the fans don't have to guess what's going to happen. They know, okay, maybe the Islanders aren't going to be a cup contender on the ice, but there's a plan in place to allow the depth and the prospects to develop. That way the future is as bright as, maybe even brighter than what's currently fielded as their NHL roster.
Hang on. I think I just got a note here in the chat. Matt Dumba has been traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Very nice for them. That means they're going to move Carlson out because they got another old veteran.
Well, I mean, that talk's going to continue, but that's just that's Dallas freeing up cap space to make another move here, and they want to shore up their blue line. I wonder if they're looking at Anaheim. Anyhow, okay, so yeah, a number of people are saying Matt Dumba and his $3.5 million cap hit to the Pittsburgh Penguins, freeing up cap space. Now, when it comes to the blue line for the New York Islanders, the big question is Matthew Schaefer going to make this team? Now,
we look at development camp.
The one thing I always want to remind people is, like, he played about a dozen games last year, guys. Like, the kid's fantastic, but let's temper expectations, no?
Yeah, I mean, you watch him during development camp, and he's light years, miles ahead of a lot of these prospects. His skating, he skates better than we walk, right, and talk and all those things. But the question is, what does he look like against adults? We haven't seen that. Obviously, he played juniors, played Worlds, gets hurt. The collarbone, had the mono earlier in the year. So we don't know what he's going to look like against NHLers. So I think he's going to get the 9 games. I don't know if he's going to go the college route. I personally think the college route, if he's not making the NHL team, is what's best, to go play against 18 to 24-year-olds rather than just cap it. But I mean, they're going to give him every chance to make this team. Patrick Waugh said that, and I think he gets the 9 games. And I do think he finds a way to make this team. One, the Islanders, have a bit of a hole there on the left side, and especially a hole in terms of the offensive kind of guy trading Dobson. Yes, they have D'Angelo back, but Schaefer's this two-way phenom when he gets to that point. So I don't think they're going to rush him. If they think he's ready, he's going to make the team. But yeah, I would temper expectations, because a week of development camp's one thing, and he was very exciting there. But let's see how he looks against the NHLers and the physicality of all that.
See, here's the thing that I wonder about too. What's the expectation for the Islanders next season? Like, honestly, this is the team they cover. Like, honestly, what are the expectations for this squad? And if it's, look, we're still shoveling out the barn before we show the horse, do you really need to have Matthew Schaefer there for that?
Right, and that's the biggest question mark. Darche has told us the whole time that he believed the team last year could make the playoffs, and you could argue if the power play was 10% better, penalty kill 10% better, Barzal that missed 2/3 of the year, all these things, these what ifs. The Islanders are a playoff team. They weren't, though. And I think he's added and filled holes, especially getting Drouin and Shabanov to hopefully help on the power play, getting more scoring up and down the forward group, shoring up your defense, getting Boquist back, D'Angelo back, healthy Sorokin, obviously had back surgery last year, getting Rittich as an insurance policy for Varlamov. I think this team's going to be better. I think they're still a wild card team trying to break through to make the playoffs. But Darche's eyes are set on making the playoffs. And I know Islander fans are tired of just make the playoffs and see what happens. But I think Darche has that. And I think it's important too. I mean, you want to make the playoffs, but like you said, is it worth, if Darche truly doesn't believe this team is going to be a contender, sense to have Schaefer develop at the NHL level against a team that's going to be probably average throughout the year, or let him go play juniors or college, and then when he's ready to spend in the summer next year, maybe some more prospects come and they're ready to try to win, then you have Schaefer be a full-time guy. That's the biggest question mark.
So here's my thought on the idea of, because I don't think the Islanders are not in tanking mode. Like, this isn't the San Jose Sharks. It's not the Chicago Blackhawks, which, man, as we've seen, like, I can only imagine like how frustrated Connor Bedard is right now, and maybe Macklin Celebrini may be at this time next season. Man, rebuilds take a long time, and when you bring it right down. And I always go out of my way to remind people, the best thing for prospects is to know what a full season really feels like. Like, Macklin Celebrini doesn't know what a full season feels like. Connor Bedard doesn't know what a full season feels like. They've played a full season, but the team's out of it by Christmas. And in the games, the team's out of it by the end of the second period. So you don't know what a full game is like every single night, and you don't know what a full season is like yet. And that's why I'm much warmer to the idea of, and I know people can say like, well, you're not making a decision. You're pulling and pushing at the exact same time, but there's value in that. You still have the Barzals and the Horvats and the Sorokins and these types of players around that are going to help keep you competitive through a season, because it's good for the development of your younger players. Agree, disagree?
No, I completely agree. And you talk about the rebuilds. The Islanders can't, I mean, unless they're trading Sorokin and Horvat and Barzal, too many guys locked up long-term where they can't rebuild right now, unless they traded those guys away. But like I said, too, Schaefer is too young for Bridgeport. Schaefer is too young to play in that league. And Rocky Thompson, I know you had him on your show, and shout out to Bridgeport, by the way. They just unveiled they're doing for their 25th anniversary, Bridgeport Sound Tigers Saturdays, where they'll wear the old logo.
Oh, no way.
Every Saturday. Yeah. So really cool for the fans of the Bridgeport Sound Tigers. But yeah, like, Darche is all about development. So he wants to be competitive now, which is why he's not moving Barzal and Horvat. But he also wants to make sure he sets the table and has the opportunity for guys like Schaefer, whether if he's not ready this year, next year he's stepping into a winning environment in the entire organization, not just at the NHL level.
Isaiah George is on this team this year. Yes or no?
I think it depends if Schaefer is on this team, to be honest. I don't think they're exactly fighting for the same spot given the styles, but I think if Schaefer is going back to juniors, George will be fighting for that third pairing left side defenseman spot. However, if Schaefer makes it, then I don't think it makes sense for George to be a seventh defenseman, go play in Bridgeport under Rocky Thompson, develop even more, and then you're the first call up. But I think if Schaefer doesn't make the team, George does. But if Schaefer does make the team, I think George is kind of the odd man out because Waugh loves Adam Boquist and Mayfield's a right side guy, and those guys are both left side defensemen, and they just locked up Romanov for 8 years. And you have Pelech, who's on a 16 team no trade, and I don't think he's going anywhere because he's skating with Schaefer this summer and helping develop him.
Right. Let me park a little bit of time here, Steph, and talk about Lou Lamoriello. And the one thing about Lou is, as much as he became the embodiment of the conservative general manager in the NHL. And there were times I can still recall, like when he was with the New Jersey Devils at the Meadowlands, like in the office, all calls in the office went to his secretary, and she would write on separate pieces of paper who called and who it was for. And Lou would come out of his office, I don't know, every hour, and go through all the notes and say, okay, this person can call him back, can't call this person back, they can call this person. Like, that is the level of control that Lou had over the entire organization. Like, we all know the stories of Lamoriello. But when he was hired, like, Steph, I'm old enough to remember, even though I was young then, I'm old enough to remember when Lou was hired. And reading in the Hockey News magazine where you work, like the old hockey, I was my first subscription, and every Thursday I got my copy of the Hockey News, and man, it was just like I read it over and over and over again. And when they hired Lou out of Providence, it was seen as one of the most radical things in the NHL. You did not hire people out of college. Look at what happened with Ned Harkness and the Detroit Red Wings. I know I'm going even way back here, Steph, but it's true. Like, college people did not go to the NHL. It was seen as the most radical move an organization could make. Now, that guy became the embodiment of everything conservative in the NHL. When you look back at the Lou Lamoriello years with the Islanders, I know the salary cap became a Gordian knot for Lou. I don't ever think that Lou really had the strongest handle on the cap going back to 2005. But still, how do you look at the Lamoriello years with the Islanders?
I think they don't get to where they are now without him. He brought structure to a team that was looked at like a Mickey Mouse organization. Structure. I mean, bringing in Barry Trotz was equally as important as Lou being hired. You know, that's obviously the biggest thing he did. And they brought a winning mindset and winning culture back to the organization, made them relevant again, to the point where, you know, yes, John Tavares ends up leaving. They tried to keep him. It didn't work. But other guys got to blossom because of Tavares leaving, like the Brock Nelsons and things like that. And you just saw the team become a respectful team. And they learned, you know, everything that they do now under Darche, the players that are here, they all loved playing for Lou and the values and life lessons they learned from Lou. I mean, they're going to carry that. And that's going to be part of what they say to the next wave of Islanders. Maybe Lou's not in charge, but everything they learned about being a team and all that stuff, you know, Anders Lee's going to pass that to Schaefer. Palmieri's going to pass it to Yzerman. Like, Lou plays an important part in this team's future, whether he's here or not.
You've heard all the stories about, like, every 2 weeks players having to go to Lou's office to get the check from Lou as he reminded them, like, I'm giving you this money. Like, the stories of Lou, like, I was saying the other day, like, it's not using this analogy. It's not like he was from the old school. He was from the school they burned down to build the old school. Like, that's where Lou, and I'll be honest with you, as much as it was awkward at times and out of sync with the times, I'm kind of going to miss, like, having one team run by, like, a really old school guy. Right? Like, I know it's like, it's for the best. It's for the best for the business. It's for the best for the Islanders right now. For the best for the marketing and sales departments, like all of it. But part of, like, the history of hockey is no longer in the game right now. Like, I always thought that, like, it would be just be nice to have, like, a place for Lou somewhere in hockey. I don't know where that is, but somewhere in hockey.
Yeah, I looked at Buffalo. You know, I talked about structure and getting a group that maybe didn't have an identity and finding that. Like, for me, Buffalo, with all the young players they have, they just, I feel like, need structure. They need someone that comes in and says, here's the line. This is how we're going to act. This is how we're going to do things. We're going to be respected. Like, I thought Buffalo was going to be a great spot for him. And I know there was all the rumors of him going up to Buffalo where he took a picture of him in the airport. Someone took a picture of him. But yeah,
right.
So I could see him, you know, I thought Buffalo would have been a great spot for just setting up structure for a team that needed it and also working for the league. But yeah, no, the league's going to miss him. And like I said, whether he's here or not, everything that he taught some of the young players when he first came to Long Island that are now vets now, they're going to preach that and share those those ideas and beliefs with the new wave of Islanders. So I don't think Lou's mentality is completely gone, even if he's not working there anymore.
What's life without Dobson going to be like for this team?
Well, I think it depends on how good DeAngelo is. If DeAngelo could fill the hole at a lot cheaper cap hit, then the Islanders are in a much better spot, especially with Schaefer developing. Listen, I think Dobson got a bad rap. I think his defense wasn't as bad as fans made it out to be. Just in big moments, it seemed like that's always when the slip-ups were. And when the offense isn't going well, everyone's going to look at your defense. So I think Dobson's a talented defenseman. I think he's going to be great in Montreal as long as he's not being relied on as, to be that defensive defenseman. I think a lot of things got in Dobson's way on Long Island. First off, trading for Romanov and trying to make those guys a pairing. It just never really worked. And with all the injuries, Dobson was playing with different pairings, different line mates, being put in positions. I think it became clear that he's not a number one power play quarterback. It just didn't work. But the Islanders didn't have another option. So he kept throwing him out there and it kept not working. And I think it impacted his mental side of the game with his defense and overthinking and second guessing. And then with Patrick Roy, like we talked about, he wants to play a physical, in-your-face brand of hockey, and that's not Dobson's game. And I think that ultimately played a part in why Dobson is on the move. But I don't think the Islanders are going to miss him as much as they think because they have DeAngelo. And again, Schaefer. I mean, Schaefer is Dobson's replacement on the power play, being that mobile transitioning defenseman. So if Schaefer could be that guy, they'll have no issues with Dobson not being here.
Walk us through how the dominoes fall after the Islanders sign Jonathan Drouin.
Yeah, it seemed to come out of nowhere. No one really saw that coming, but it made a lot of sense. I mean, the Islanders needed power play help. They brought over Bennett, the Colorado Avalanche's power play coach, for a long time. So that played a huge part in bringing Drouin over. And then you thought, okay, who is he going to play with? And they come out and say that he's going to play with Bo Horvat. So how does the domino fall there? Well, if he's playing with Horvat, you got to think, okay, they didn't say he was playing with Horvat and Barzal. And then you later find out that Barzal is going back to center. So, okay, now your 1-2 punch is Horvat, Barzal down the middle. What does that mean now? Where does Cal Ritchie fit in? How do the dominoes fall on that? I know you spoke on the Elmont Ritchie playing with Rocky Thompson. So the domino from that impact is probably Ritchie doesn't start in the NHL roster because you have too many centers and they're not moving Pajot or Cizikas or at least not yet. Well, then they still have some cap space. They need winger help. Well, they win the Shabanov sweepstakes. So now, okay, where does Pierre Engvall play? Because he seems to be the odd man out. And it all trickled down. They bring DeAngelo and Boquist back, and we didn't think there was going to be much change to their back end. But yeah, I think Drouin playing with the speed and skill and the power play, his ability on the power play and his playmaking ability kind of altered how the Islanders are going to run their offense. You didn't have to separate Barzal and Horvat, and you could have kept them together. But if you're trying to set up exactly what Horvat's best kind of line mate is, it's a playmaker who's good at give and goes. That's not really Barzal's game. He's a carry the puck kind of guy. So now you say, okay, who could play with Barzal? So I think quickly after the Drouin signing, and we got to talk with Darche and Waugh, you're kind of seeing how they want to build this lineup. And I think it's going to be a much deeper offensive team. Like I said before, they have a deep team in the past, but the problem is, and it's no offense to these kinds of guys, but their bottom six is more of just the physical, maybe a couple of goals here and there. No, up and down their lineup now, they have guys that can put the puck in the net. And that's for an Islanders team. They've been missing that for a very long time.
Steph, a couple more things for you. You mentioned Cal Ritchie. I still think the same thing is give him 30 games in the American League. Let him marinate then, and when he's ready to come up, then you pull the trigger on Jean-Gabriel Pajot, and you make that move. Let me ask you about Shabanov. So there was a number of other teams that were interested. The Philadelphia Flyers, I believe the Rangers were in on him. Was Utah, I was told, was another team. How did the Islanders land Shabanov?
Same way the Islanders landed Siplikov, opportunity and a Russian base. You have Varlamov, Romanov, Sorokin, and you have guys that understand what it's like to come over and get acclimated. And I think opportunity being the biggest thing is Shabanov has a chance to be a top six forward here. Does he start there? No, probably not. But I think, Patrick Roy talked about, yes, he's small, but he doesn't play to his size. But the other thing Roy said, which you don't see on the highlight reels, is he said that Shabanov's really good defensively. He knows where to be in the D zone. Now, if you could earn the trust from Patrick Roy out of the gate, it's huge. But I think the Islanders just find ways to do this because it's Russian players. Russians know they can come here and it's a safe place for them. They have help and all that kind of stuff. Also, though, I believe I was doing this research the other day. Chernik, his agent, his son was drafted by the Islanders in the early 2000s. And I'm not sure if that plays a huge part in anything, but there is a familiarity with the organization. Jim Paliafito, who Lou brought over from Toronto, is a madman when it comes to European scouting, and obviously
specifically Russia. Right. Yes.
So I think that plays a huge part in this as well.
That's excellent. So two things. One, will we now finally see the personality of Mathew Barzal unleashed on the NHL? To me, he's like the great hidden personality that nobody knows about.
Yeah, I think you're going to see it with all these guys, and the personalities come back. Like under Lou, you couldn't be on podcasts. I mean, you saw Schaefer the other day on Spinning Chicklets.
The Chicklets.
You couldn't.
No way. Yeah. With Lou, not a chance. No way.
Right, and then I think Barzal had a commercial like handful of years ago with Paul Bissonnette that didn't get airtime. Probably Lou played a part in that. So I think, you have to market these guys' personality because, I'm not saying they'll play better, but I think that, Barzal is someone you can market. All these guys, Matt Martin, all the charity stuff that he does, and Anders Lee and all those things that, Lou didn't believe in he wasn't going to promote every single charity because he felt like if he did one, he has to do everybody, where that wasn't pushed. Now the organization is going to push that, and you're going to see what these guys are doing in the community, what their days are in the summer, just all that kind of access. And I think a guy like Barzal, who's a, borderline superstar in this league, his ability, he plays the guitar. He's a talented individual. And I think that, it should be, if you put on a concert, fans would obviously come. And I think you want to see these guys behind their helmets and behind their masks. That was one of the biggest reasons I started the Elmonters, is like to just get to know these guys a little more. And hopefully for me and just everyone on the media side, we get more access to letting the fans, because we see these guys every day. We know what they're like. We get to hang around and joke with them. The fans don't. And I think this is really cool under Darche that they now have the ability to do this.
Okay, so outside of Barzal then, let me close on this one, Steph. Who have we missed out on? Because that player wasn't able to step out and stick his head up above the crowd of New York Islanders jerseys.
Yeah, I think you saw it a little bit with Romanov. They've been doing a lot more interviews with him. He is so funny. Him and Sorokin should have a podcast, but it should be in English. Because the guys, they're always on the boat together. We see it on Instagram. They're playing Chell, the NHL video game together. But those two together are hysterical. And I think Romanov, whether he's being, it's a serious moment or not, he always has something really cool or insightful or funny to say. And they're always cracking up. So I think a guy like Romanov, giving him the mic to do like player intros or going around the room and asking teammates questions. I think the fans already love him, but he's amazing.
Okay, so I'm going to be old guy for you now, Steph. You're too young to remember this, young man. But next time you're around the rink for any of the older guys, ask them if they ever saw another great Islanders feature. Well, there weren't podcasts back then. They just did it as a feature on television. But now that I think about it, you mentioned, Semyon Varlamov and Romanov doing a podcast. I think these two could have done this act as a podcast. There was a feature called Heels and Flats that used to appear on Islanders broadcasts. It was Pat Flatley and Glenn Healy. Next time you're around any of the olds in the Islanders organization, ask them about Heels and Flats and how it's funny too. Because like I look at it now that you mentioned stuff, like I look at it now, I'm like, that could have been the beginning of what we now know as a podcast. Same idea, and it was two players that were doing like. Dude, this is the 80s that they're doing this. Glenn Healy and Pat Flatley. Anyhow, I go down that road with you. Steph, listen, continued success, man. You're killing it on the Islanders beat, man. It's an exciting team. There's a lot of great energy around the squad. It's great to have you on one of the most entertaining beats in the game. You keep up the great work, and we'll talk soon, pal.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. Have a great one.
There he is, Steph Rosner from the Hockey News and the Elmonters, the podcast and the newsletter. Covering the New York Islanders. Did I miss any more trades, Vic?
No, I think just the one.
Jim
Any
Nils,
thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, listen, it didn't work out. Nil threw a dart and tried to, hope for the best with Matt Dumba. Going to be interesting to see now what Nil does with a little bit more cap space with the Dallas Stars. I think that the next order of business is trying to figure out, is Jason Robertson's number something that the Dallas Stars can work with, or do they need to, now that they've probably had a pretty good go around the market, look at moving Jason Robertson, to be blunt. The one area they do want to shore up is the back end. I think we can all be sort of blunt about that, and that's why I'd be looking at Anaheim if I were the Dallas Stars.
Yeah. You like Jackson Lacombe a lot, eh?
Oh, who doesn't? Guy's fantastic, man. Like, seriously, out of all of them, and I love, like, Olin Zellweger is fantastic. Pavel Mintyukov is real good, but, like, Jackson Lacombe is he's the best of the bunch. Best of the bunch going away.
Yep. I did want to get back to something that Stefen said. Great. He's awesome.
Steph's awesome. I'll tell you what, man.
He's everywhere.
He's
everywhere now.
And he's like hungry, and he's on a really cool beat. That guy's going to be like a star in the media, hockey media one day. He's already well on his way to getting there.
He has something I wish I had too. He
Hair.
looks younger than he actually is.
Okay,
well, yeah, that. I mean, yeah. He looks younger than he actually is. So,
yeah. By the way, can I ask you something?
Yes.
Like, I don't know how I say this politely, so I'm just gonna blurt it out. Like, I'm surprised that they let you do podcasts in prison.
Yeah, my background. Yes, the thing is, it's so funny to me because it's funny because
just like the hour free that you get once a day. I'm not gonna have lunch. You gotta do a podcast.
I did Leafs Morning Take, and Pagnotta had the same thing as me. I wanted to chirp him for it, but this is literally the wall right here. So I can't put anything behind me. There's no room to put anything. It's gonna be sticking out and hit me in the back of the head.
That's so good.
So, I love it.
All right. So what did you want to get back to? Got a couple minutes left here.
He mentioned Lou Lamoriello bringing respect back to the New York Islanders. And as you very well know, I'm a Toronto Maple Leaf fan. And I felt exactly the same way when he was talking about Lou bringing respect back to the Islanders as I did about Lou bringing respect back to the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I feel like if your organization is in this tailspin downward spiral, he might be able to bring some respect in and some leadership in, but he does have a shelf life. I do think he has a shelf life.
He always had a hard time with the cap. Like, I'm just trying to give him a soft landing here.
No, of course.
Always had a hard time. And this goes back to New Jersey coming out of the lockout. And this is like the Malakoff contract and the McGillney deal, like all of it. He never, even though he was like, the irony of it is like he's one of the architects of it. And then I guess Brandon Pridham, who before he worked for the Maple Leafs worked for the NHL, right? He's one of the geniuses behind the salary cap. Like Brandon Pridham's going to be a GM in the NHL one day, and the path that he's taking to get there is cap management because he's one of the architects of it. And so I would imagine like in some of those early, I can remember specifically in the early days, there were a lot of GMs that had like I don't want to isolate Lou on this one because back in 2005 there were a lot of managers that really didn't understand the intricacies of the salary cap because they've never had to, and this just got dropped in their laps. And if you'll recall, do you remember what the range was for upper limit and lower limit?
I think cap? I do. 32 to 39, I believe.
Close.
Was the original.
It was 39 was the max.
Yeah, that 39. I know. 39.
The lower, 21.
Oh, 21. I thought it was 32. 21. Okay, so the reason why I know it was 39 is because it destroyed the best Toronto Maple Leafs team of all time. They lost Nieuwendyk, they lost Gary Roberts, and Brian Leach had 1 year left, and that went with the lockout. So I never got to watch my team with their best shot at winning a cup. Broke my heart.
Yeah, and then when Dubas signed all those contracts that were supposed to all look good because the cap was going up, then all of a sudden the pandemic hit, and so it was either the salary cap or a pandemic that scotched your team.
Yeah. Hey. always next year, Jeff. Always next year.
No, I know the walking ATMs going into the rink. Okay, a couple of things. So Matt Dunn is now a member of the Pittsburgh Penguins. There's that. Want to thank Steph Rosner for stopping by to talk about the Islanders. I want to get to what's going to be an interesting little sort of segment here. Do we have anything for FanDuel today, or are we just doing the plug? For them,
no, we do.
We got something for them. Okay. As always, this time of the show, we like to remind you that the sheet is powered by FanDuel, home of the same game parlay. Make every moment more on FanDuel. FanDuel, proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. And on this Thursday, July the 10th, this is interesting. Right. This is interesting to me.
You like this
even though we're so far out of the discussion. And maybe the answer is going to be Craig Berube to put a smile on your face on July 10th.
Or Sheldon Keefe to put a frown on my face.
Well, I like Sheldon. I think he's an excellent coach.
I do too.
What are we looking at here? Vec, what are we looking at?
All right, we're looking at the Jack Adams Award favorites on FanDuel. You're going to have to give me the last name again. Andre Tourigny.
Yeah,
Tourigny.
He's a great coach. Was always a great junior hockey coach. Tourigny is one of the people that's really able to get through to young players, which is why he's so great for the Utah Mammoth. Yeah, Andre Tourigny.
Yep, and he's the favorite at plus 750 on FanDuel. Joel Quenneville, Martin St. Louis, Dean Evison, Mike Sullivan round out the top 5. I want to know, number one, where were you leaning? And then I have a follow-up for you afterwards.
Okay, so the Jack Adams has always been interesting to me because it always seems to go the way of a coach that takes a team that has low expectations and achieves something unexpected. Okay? Spencer Carberry was excellent this year. He wins at Jack Adams. I got zero problem with that. I got generally zero problem with any coaches that do that. But that's generally the way this thing is voted on. You know what I think is really hard to do, Vic? Keep a team on top.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's getting a team there and there's keeping a team there. John Cooper is one of the best coaches of this generation. He's won exactly 0 Jack Adams trophies. This is spectacular. That guy's going to go to the Hockey Hall of Fame as one of the best coaches in the NHL and international hockey. 0 Jack Adams trophies. That is a disgrace.
And that brings me to where I wanted to go with it. Paul Maurice.
There's another one.
How many does he have? Who? Okay. In your opinion, I mean, you don't have to go in order, but top 3 coaches in the NHL right now, those 2 I'd put right up there.
They're right up there. Joel Quenneville's an excellent coach. But then again, like I tend to have the belief that there's 6 or 7 excellent coaches any season, and then there's just kind of everybody else. And at times, coaches, for whatever reason, it just clicks and things work. Generally speaking, if you're going to win the Jack Adams, you have to have good goaltending. Correct. It's the old saying, show me a good goalie, I'll show you a good coach. If you have a look at the Jack Adams trophy and the history of it, go look at your winners and then go look at the save percentage of the goaltenders. Goalies have gotten more coaches fired in the NHL than any other position. But for me, I'm still of the mind that keeping a team good is just as, or maybe even more difficult than taking an average team and making them good for a season. Now, having said that, I got a lot of time for Marty St. Louis and what he did last year. And if Marty can do that again with the Montreal Canadiens, I wouldn't be surprised if Marty St. Louis gets it. But guys,
does he have the goaltending to do it,
voters,
Jeff?
Vote. You know what? I think I'll say this right now. Samuel Montembeault is the most underrated goaltender in the NHL, period. Wow. Yeah, because we think of all the great goalies, and it's always about the Russians and their post play and how fast they skate. And I always say dumb things like I don't think they have hips because of how they play around the post. It's so unique, it's so radical, and it's so cool to watch. But that's all watch Russian goaltenders around the post and tell me they have hip bones because they don't. But look at Samuel Montembeault and look at the underlying numbers for Montembeault. Outstanding every season, and very quietly, he's turning in great performance after great performance. I think that he is one of the great. And again, next year at the Olympics, Jordan Binnington's going to get the net. Yep. But I wonder if it's a short leash. I wonder if this is going to be like Salt Lake and Cujo has the bad game against Sweden. And then he leaves
my Toronto Maple Leafs.
and then it changes. Yeah, and then they had the rift, and Cujo had the rift with Pat Quinn. Never got that smoothed over. It cost your Toronto Maple Leafs again.
Eddie was fine.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if Samuel Montembeault ends up grabbing it for Team Canada next year. Yeah.
Okay.
That's how strongly I feel about Montembeault.
And now I have one more for you because it just came to me. Okay. You said something similar about Mackenzie Blackwood last year.
Really good. And there's another one.
Do you feel like he could make a run for that 100%. Canadian position?
100%.
And do you still think he's underrated?
Well, no one really talks about him.
No.
right? Don't. No one really talks about him. But then again, expectation is high. With
Johnny and
Colorado.
Colby give me shit because I said I didn't like that deal. 5 years, $5 million when he signed it.
Great
I didn't
deal.
like it. I know, but I didn't like it. And they told me, you're out of your mind, Vic. You're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. And I said, why now? It's the thing. And our good friend Kyle Dubas, he always said, if you got time, use it. Why didn't they wait to see how he did in the postseason?
You know where he got that line from?
Where?
Lou.
You?
No, Lou.
Yeah,
Lou.
there you go.
Not you. Lou.
Oh, look at that.
That's Lou's.
Full circle,
that's
baby.
Lou's. If you have time, use it. Take your time.
Take your time.
But having said that, Mackenzie Blackwood was on the expiring contract. I don't know if there was a deadline that the agent put forward, as in like, listen, if we don't get a deal done by this date, my guy's going to go to free agency. We're gonna test. I don't know. Or did the Avalanche just look at it and say, this is the hardest thing to find in the NHL?
Yeah, we got our guy.
We got our guy. We think we got our guy. $5 million is not going to kill us. The cap is going up. Let's lock him up.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a really good deal. I still think it's a really good deal.
I didn't, and now I do.
I don't think that Mackenzie Blackwood was like the reason the Avalanche didn't win another Stanley Cup. Like, again, like are we looking at, just as a sidebar, are we looking at the Avalanche now and saying, yeah, this is like the 2007 Ducks?
Yeah. One and done.
Feels that way.
There were a lot of
it?
one and dones. There are a lot of one and dones, like that Carolina Hurricanes team that won.
Yeah, but you know what the thing about that was? Everyone hates when I mention this, but I'll stand by it. Weird things happened that year in the NHL because that was the year right out of the lockout, and everybody had to relearn the game. And everyone, Philadelphia Flyers, I'm looking your direction, who thought that the standard of officiating was going to be lax, they were wrong. And the standard stayed high. It became all about speed and power plays. And the Carolina Hurricanes were the first ones. Like, do you remember who won the Rocket Richard that year?
Ooh, out of the lockout? I do.
Yeah. You want to talk about one and done?
I don't.
Jonathan Cheechoo.
Jonathan Cheechoo? Ah, okay. When you said one and done. Okay.
Jonathan Cheechoo. Like weird things happened that year. Not that I sort of write it all off, but like there were bizarre things that happened that year. But again, you know what it really got me to thinking about? And this is a great sort of summer topic. And here we are. Do you think that having different teams win the Stanley Cup every single season, that it devalues the Stanley Cup? Like when you look at the 80s, Islanders, Oilers, like powerhouse teams, and you go and you go to the Hall of Fame and you look at the Stanley Cup and you read the names, you're like, wow, that's amazing. And then you get into the salary cap era and every year it's a different team and you go like, meh.
I don't think it devalues it because I think the
devalue
value.
the cup?
I don't think so because when you look at winning the Stanley Cup and how hard it is, it's going to be hard no matter who. So it's the hardest one.
Hard
to
for
win.
the Oilers. It's hard for the Islanders. They won 4 in a row, Vic.
Yeah, I know, but was it easier back then for them? Is it more valuable now? Is it harder now? Is it easier now? I mean, that's how I look at value, is how hard it is to do, and I think it'll always be hard to do. Yeah. It's the hardest one to win.
You know when it was the easiest?
When? Never?
Late 60s, early 70s. This is my argument against Bobby Orr being the best defenseman of all time. Because in 1967, the league doubled. And then Vancouver Buffalo came in 70, and then another expansion in 72 and 74. And then the WHA, which is a whole separate league, came in and stole players away from the NHL. That was when the NHL was at its weakest point. Now, that's where you see like Esposito and 76 goals and Bobby Orr and all the records. Not that you want to disqualify them, but I kind of look at that era, as fun as it might have been, and it was real fun. There were a lot of players in the NHL who didn't belong in the NHL. Those on Coach's Corner, Grapes would show like videos of like Bobby Orr skating around pylons in Minnesota North Stars jerseys.
Yeah.
Those guys. Yeah. Like, wow, look at Bobby. It's like, no. Look at those guys. They're really bad.
I mean, so now is it harder now? They have 32 teams going up to 34 teams. Is that going to water it down? Is it getting harder? I don't know.
It is. Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is. And that's why like none of these teams like match up against like the again, like I'm like old guy shakes fist at cloud, yells and screams. I'm that guy. But yeah, it is. Those teams are not as great as those powerhouse teams. It's too hard. And the cap makes it too hard. And you saw this with Chicago. Every year they'd win the Stanley Cup, they have to get rid of half their team.
Yep.
That's just the reality. That's just the reality.
Except if you're Florida.
Well, we'll see what happens with it. Eventually this can't continue. If they make it to the Stanley Cup final again, like 4 Stanley Cup appearances, is that enough to say dynasty? Is it enough to say dynasty now? See, I think you need 3. Did I mention to you, or were you listening to the show a couple of weeks ago, and I referenced something that Sean McIndoe said on the Athletic podcast, which I absolutely love?
No, what did he say?
Biggest baller move of all time. One of the reasons why everybody hates the Florida Panthers is because that is cocky hockey. That is cocky hockey, baby. And you saw, like, they're still partying. Like, still put on, like, pots of coffee for them. They got to sober up eventually. Training camp's gonna eventually be around the corner here. Like, but they are a cocky, confident bunch of hockey players. McIndoe's point on the pod was that they should be chasing not 3, but chasing 4, right? The Islanders 4, the Oilers 4 and 5 years, but chase 4 cups to the point where if they win the Stanley Cup next year, Vic, and Gary Bettman calls Alexander Barkov over to present the cup, don't touch it. Not here for 3 or here for 4.
That's cocky right there.
That's cocky.
That's cocky.
Cockiest move you'll ever hear.
That's cocky.
That's what I want. That's what I want. No, Gary, we're not here for the 3rd. We're here for 4.
Yeah, we want the 4th.
Come back in a year, and then I'll take your 5th. I don't want the 3rd, buddy.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Times. That's good times.
All right, I got one more bone to pick with you before you wrap. I'm sorry.
Okay, go for it.
How was I bad? You did not tell me it was your birthday yesterday. So I'm very upset with you. That's not cool.
Listen, you get to my age, like, who cares? It doesn't matter, like, if it's my birthday or not. I share birthdays, by the way, with O.J. Simpson, Courtney Love, and Tom Hanks.
Oh, I got one more for you because I looked it up as well.
Oh yeah, what else do I got?
I looked up top 50 most famous birthdays. July 9th. You didn't make the cut.
What?
Big Daddy Cool Diesel, Kevin Nash.
Is Kevin Nash a July 9th?
Kevin Nash. I saw Kevin Nash. I was like, wow, that's cool. Jeff will like that. So yeah, wow. Kevin Nash, July 9th.
Wow. I like that. Yeah. Great power bomb, Kevin Nash.
Yeah, great power bomb. The outside.
Great power. I always like great charisma, great personality, great boot, great power bomb.
You think Philly Nash, ever saw Kevin Nash wrestle?
What's that?
You think Zach Phillips ever saw Kevin Nash wrestle?
Probably not. That was the Attitude Era. That was well before him. That was Curtain Call era with him and Diesel. Oh, look at that. My friend of mine, my lawyer friend, just sent a belated happy birthday. Thank you.
There you go. See,
thank you.
Now you're gonna get bombarded.
It was yesterday. Yeah, thanks, Vic. Yeah, it was yesterday.
Happy
and
birthday.
I'm 1 year older. Just continue to watch hockey games. Talk about hockey every day until the crematorium. And then I can finally stop talking about hockey games. You know what, Vic?
What's that?
I don't know what I would do.
I don't know what I would do either. Yeah.
Like there's a great have you seen the movie Spinal Tap?
I have not.
God, man, I'm old and you're not. You got to see Spinal Tap. But there's a great segment at the end of the movie where Rob Reiner's like interviewing all the band, and he's saying, if you didn't have rock and roll, what would you do? And the drummer who he's interviewing in the bathtub comes up with the greatest line of all time and says, well, as long as there's sex and drugs, I can really do without the rock and roll.
That's a great line. I can't use it.
That's a great line. That's a great line. So on that happy note, thanks to Steph Rosner for stopping by. Thanks to Vic for producing the program today. And thanks to you for sharing your time with me. Back on the air tomorrow, I believe, and then Monday, Tuesday, and then I'm off to Baltimore for a few days for a kids' baseball tournament. But until then, Matt Dumba is now a Pittsburgh Penguin. That's the very latest news. And always remember, on this program, when news breaks, we fix it. There's a new there's a new header for us. When news breaks, we fix it. The Sheet on the Nation Network. Talk to you tomorrow. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Faceoff. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.